fellow bookworms to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney and I have a reading update today for you guys. I'm going to be talking about 4 different books. I did DNF 2 of them though, and I DNF'd them pretty early on, which if you have been following my channel at all, you'll know I really struggle DNFing a book in general, and especially DNFing it if I haven't given it a fair shot at all. But I have a lot of books that I want to get to, and I knew right off the bat that these books weren't for me, and I thought, why am I going to torture myself when there's so many other books I could be reading right now? And so I went ahead and just said, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. And both the books I DNF'd were part of the 25 Days of Bookmas books that my husband and my sister-in-law picked out. So I really wasn't too worried about DNFing them either. I did that as a way, 1, it was fun just opening up and seeing what they picked out for me, and 2, as a way to at least try new authors and new books that I might not have picked up for myself. And I figured I did that by trying these books. And prior to these books, I was, every single book that they had picked out, I really enjoyed. Even some of the ones that I didn't expect to, because I am reading them from least anticipated to most anticipated. So we'll talk a little bit about those, and then we'll talk about the 2 books that I did read, which are part of my ABC Author Challenge books, which if I don't read those, I do fail the challenge, so I'm a little bit more motivated to read those. But I would have read them anyway. I enjoyed them enough that I would have read them. So we'll go ahead and get into it, but before I do, if you could remember to give this video a like, it really does help out the channel. And then don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notifications so you don't miss out on a thing. So the first book we're going to be talking about is The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. This is the first book in the Night Angel trilogy. And if you saw my recent haul, I just put it up earlier this week. I actually got the next 2 in the series because I have been enjoying every single book that my husband and sister-in-law picked out for me. And I've been wanting to continue the series of the ones that were part of a series. So I came across the next 2 in this trilogy and I thought, you know what? Why not go ahead and pick them up, and that way I at least have them. If I enjoy this one as much as I've been enjoying the other reads, then I'll already have them and I can read them. And unfortunately, I did not enjoy this one, and I did DNF it. I did not get very far in. I forced myself to get through chapter 5, so I was at chapter 6 when I decided to go ahead and DNF it. I was ready to DNF it at chapter 3 though, and the chapters are really short, so I only got about 35 pages in, but it felt very shallow, like there was no depth to the characters or anything like that, and he didn't really lay the foundation. So it's like he just presented you these characters, but he didn't do anything to kind of give you something to connect to these characters or understand the world. There is a map, but like I was just so confused as far as the world, and he just didn't explain. So every time he would introduce something, there was no explanation to go along with that introduction. And so I just wasn't enjoying it. It's about, you have Azoth, who is part of the Guild Rats, and they're just a very basically orphan children, essentially, that are very poor, and you have the bigs, which are the teenagers, and you have the littles, which are the younger children, and they kind of have to pay these dues, and they're just really struggling to get by. And he comes across an assassin, and he decides he wants to try to apprentice with this assassin and become a part of the Assassin's Guild. Obviously that's going to take some money though, because you have to pay your dues there as well, which are obviously more expensive than just the Guild Rat dues. So I kind of got up to the point where he had come across the assassin and had asked to apprentice, and the assassin basically turned him down. But obviously we know that doesn't stay that way. But that's as far as I got, because I just wasn't enjoying it. And I thought, there's so many other books I could be reading right now. But my husband is reading this, and he thinks it's perfectly fine. And I looked at the reviews on Goodreads. It has over 4 stars. and a lot of the reviews are pretty positive. So it just might be kind of my preference. I really need a lot of support for the characters and the world to fully be able to understand it and enjoy it. So that might be more on me than it is on the book. But if I'm recalling right, this is his debut series as well. And so, obviously, as writers kind of write and do it, they get a little better. So, not for me, but so far my husband seems to be enjoying it, and a lot of people on Goodreads seem to enjoy it. So, it might be something, if you're kind of into that type of like world, it might be something you enjoy, but it just wasn't for me. So, that's the first one. And hopefully my husband can read them and enjoy all three. So the next one, I was so excited to get to this author. I've never read this author, but he's a fairly popular one, and that is Terry Pratchett. This book, Feet of Clay, is part of his Discworld series. And yeah, I was just really excited because I've never tried him, and I thought, you know what? Like, I'm really excited for this. I did not make it 15 pages. I did not make it past 15 pages. Again, you had all these, like, no explanation, which I get the Discworld's kind of a big series, and I'm not sure how far in this one is. But, so maybe starting at the beginning would have been better, but I don't think so. I think it was the writing style, because he literally jumped from like 4 or 5 different characters within 15 pages, and no clue which character I was going to be invested in and connected to. Obviously books do, there's lots of books that have different point of views and such, but it kind of sets you up, and kind of the main characters and the main players, and you might even start with one main character and then they slowly introduce other people. Sometimes you start with multiple, but you kind of get invested in the characters. I couldn't do that here, and the world had no clue what was happening as far as the world goes either, and I just did not enjoy it. And then he had like these little footnotes, which normally would be fun. Like, I think that's kind of fun, it's different, but I was so confused already, and then those were just distracting me further. So yeah, 15 pages in, and I was like, I can't do this. And so I'm gonna hold on to this, let my husband try. He's never read Terry Pratchett either, but I think he might enjoy this one, and so I'm gonna let him give this a try as well, and hopefully he likes Terry Pratchett, and then he can have fun there. So that was the next one. That was a failure. The next one I read, again, this next two are part of my those two were part of my 25 days of Bookworms books. These next two are part of my ABC Author Challenge books, so I did need to read them. This first one is The Cold Dish by Craig Johnson, which is the television series Longmire. It's based on this book series. So this one I also struggled with a little bit, so I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm kind of in a reading slump. I am still working on The Origin by Irving Stone, which is another book that's part of my ABC Author Challenge. I'm about halfway through on that one, but it's really dense, so I've been reading other books in between, reading like chunks of that one. And so I thought, well, maybe, and I've really been enjoying that one, so I thought, well, maybe my mind's just not with these other books because I'm there. But the next one I read, I really enjoyed. So again, I think it was just kind of the writing style on this one. He kind of does like flashbacks, and I get there's kind of this air of mystery, and he's trying to like keep you intrigued and build up to it. But like the flashbacks just didn't give you a whole lot of information. They didn't seem to fit well overall where they were inserted. Sometimes they worked, like, something would trigger that flashback and it worked. Other times it just kind of seemed random. And yeah, I just overall didn't really enjoy the writing style. But I did really enjoy the characters. I thought the characters were a lot of fun in this book. They have very distinct personalities. And I enjoyed kind of that Western Wyoming atmosphere, small town. I enjoyed that as well. So this one I was kind of in the middle on. I did kind of struggle to get through it. But by the end, I was more interested. I did do a CAWPILE rating. I'm not going to go through that here today, it did end up averaging out and equaling a 3-star rating, which I agree with on that. So, but yeah, I struggled a little bit with this one. I will say though, I had no clue. When they revealed who did it at the end, I had no clue. They were not even on my radar. So I will say that. Um, that took kind of blindsided me completely. And the logic of this book, like, it didn't really make sense as far as like the previous case. And I think if the flashbacks had been a little bit more in depth and kind of explained the emotions and such a little bit better, I think it would have been more enjoyable. But it's like I get that you're angry because of what happened previously and how justice was given out, but at the same time, they were caught and they were, proven guilty. So, um, I don't know, just kind of the anger and everything like there, um, it wasn't very well explained. So, but overall, pretty enjoyable, pretty solid read, and probably not gonna pick up anymore though, and I doubt I would reread this one, but I didn't hate it either. So, and then the last one, there were several problems with this book, but it's just kind of based on the genre it is. But I still really enjoyed it, even with all the problems I had with it. And that is Karen Kingsbury, Chasing Sunset. This is book 2 in the Angels Walking series. So I never read book 1, and I didn't feel lost because I hadn't read book 1. Like, book 1, there's 2 characters in here book 1 kind of revolved around. So I didn't feel lost at all. They were kind of side characters in this one. This was more about the other characters, Mary Catherine and Marcus, who were friends of the characters that the first book revolved around. So this one, I wish it had been more about the angels themselves and not the people, because I really enjoyed the parts where it was from the angels' point of view and everything like that. I like the premise of the angels walking, which means they come down to earth and they complete these missions, trying to help people and kind of guide them on the right path for future events to take place that need to take place. I really liked that premise. But it mainly followed the 2 human characters, and it just wasn't as enjoyable as I would have wanted. But I still really enjoyed it. So I don't know how to explain it, because I did really enjoy it. At the end, I gave it 10 for enjoyment. But the human characters, just, I wasn't really invested in them overall. Minus one, there was one kind of side character, Lexi, who was a teenage girl. I really, really liked that character. She seemed the most relatable out of all the human characters, and I enjoyed her, but the focus wasn't mainly on her at all. She did have a prominent part to play though, but like the main character, Mary Catherine, I don't know, like, she just didn't seem very realistic because she's going through a lot and she's so at peace with it all. Other than feeling a little sad because she feels like she can't have certain things in her life, where I'm like, where's the anger and the frustration at your circumstances? Like, it's just not automatic that you are to that point. You have to work at that. So I felt that wasn't very realistic. And that is one problem, like, with church and such. Like, this is a Christian fiction book. Like, I understand that. But it's like, you're supposed to just be so accepting that it's God's will, and it kind of makes you feel bad if you do feel anger and such and whatnot. And I've kind of been on a rocky path as far as my own spiritual journey goes lately, so like that might be part of it. But I'm like, anger and frustration and such are perfectly human emotions. Like, you wouldn't just be perfectly okay with what she's dealing with, and other than she's sad because she regrets a little bit that she can't have certain things, which she's making that choice. She could have it, but she's decided that she just can't. So, I don't know. I really didn't like the main character. And Marcus, the character of Marcus, which is the main male lead, he just seems... It seems like the author had a character. She wanted a baseball player, that was famous and had money, and he was going to kind of be this hero that swoops in and does a youth center. Because it takes place in, like, the inner city of LA, so there's a lot of gang violence and things like that. And so it's like, he didn't have a lot of depth to him. Like, she created this character to fit this role, instead of kind of letting the character guide her. And so I really didn't like him either. The angels, the one angel you don't get a good sense of, but the other angel, I love that character because, again, you saw those humans, like, they're not infallible. The angels aren't all powerful or anything like that, and when they're walking, they are subject to human emotions and such, and you see that angel struggle with that. So, like I said, Lexi and that angel were the best characters of this book. Now, even with all the issues I had with it, and there was like some logic issues, like it didn't fully explain things, but overall, even with all the issues like I had with this book, I enjoyed it so much. Like I said, I gave enjoyment a 10, and it did end up getting a 4-star rating from me. Just barely 4 stars, but it hit. Just because I did enjoy it, and there were a couple characters that kind of saved the book, and I like that premise of angels coming to Earth and having these missions where they're trying to keep things on track, and it's not just like this perfect, like, angels are all powerful and they can, do stuff and have magical powers and whatnot. This one, I will say, though, it didn't really leave it on a cliffhanger, but it did leave things unresolved. Luckily, there's a third book in the series, and it still follows these characters. So I'm definitely going to have to pick up that third book and see how it resolves. And I'm really hoping it shows us Lexi again, the teenager, because I'm not sure if it will based on the synopsis, just because it's really following Mary Catherine and Marcus. So I'm really hoping Lexi's a part of it, and then those, at least the one angel that we saw that was in here. So if you like Christian fiction, definitely pick this up. If you're kind of more neutral like me, you don't dislike it, you don't love it either, this might be a good one. If you're just wanting to try more Christian fiction, this might be a good one for you. If you don't believe in God and you're not really into the whole Christian fiction thing, obviously not for you. But like I said, I really did like the premise of those angels walking and whatnot. So definitely by far the best one of the bunch. But that is it. That's all I have for you right now. Like I said, I'm still working on The Origin by Irving Stone. And I'm also working on the Sinister Pig, which is another 25 Days of Bookmas book. And then I have one more L author, Elizabeth Lowell, I want to say. The Color of Death is the next one I'm going to be picking up, and I'll be picking those up this week and reading those and hopefully finishing out the month with those. So I do have a couple more for both the 25 Days of Bookmas and my ABC Author Challenge, so definitely keep an eye out, and I'll do another update on those books. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.